I good to go? Am I good to go, Miss King? Oh, okay. 3 minutes. All right. Yep. Just say, this is Preston Budd with his senior presentation. Yeah, it works. Yeah. I really enjoy the effect, so. That's such a good time. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm good. What am I studying? I think philosophy and political science. Yeah. more nervous for sure. Because he keeps stopping and I'm like, all right, start. And then he says no. Now I'm good. I don't think I have enough time. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Today I'll be presenting to you engineering how to make an impact is what I may have said had I gone through with my original plan. However, I was extremely indecisive when it comes to my senior project, and I cycled through a ton of different ideas. For example, sales, networking issues in rural areas, something that's very prevalent to all of us living in Louisa. I thought this might have been a good idea to do for my senior project. Law, jury nullification. This is the wrong presentation, Miss King. I'm sorry. I had two presentations. I'm so sorry. Miss King? Yeah. And the backgrounds look the exact same, so I couldn't tell. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. We're all good. Is that the one we're on right now? Is there another one? Did I? Share the video. Is there any way I can sign into mine? Okay, thank God. There it is. I'm sorry. No. Yep. There we go.
Should I start that again?
Yes.
Again, I'd like to PBudd.
Hello, everybody. Today I'll be presenting on engineering how to make an impact is what I may have said had I gone through with my original plan. However, I was extremely indecisive when it comes to my senior project, and I cycled through a ton of different ideas. Maybe I wanted to do something that related to me, something that my personal interests pointed to most. So I thought about politics, why the American government polarizes. But I also had the idea that I should do something quirky that goes along with my sense of humor. So humor, how to make presentations entertaining. However, I didn't go with any of these ideas. I actually tried to mix all three of them. Something that both has an impact in the world, is serious enough for me, and is playful enough to make all of my peers enjoy everything that I've done throughout the year. So the actual project I'll be presenting to you today is juggling, metacognition, and memory. Hello, everybody. My name is Preston Budd. Thank you guys for coming out. I tried to keep one statement in mind, a statement from my favorite song. I faced it all, and I stood tall and did it my way. Both from the contemplation of the topic for my presentation and the implementation of the project itself, I tried to make sure that everything I did was Preston-esque. So everything I did wasn't really conforming to maybe what a lot of my peers did, but it was something that I had a ton of fun doing. And I think I enjoyed the presentations and everything else that went along with the project a whole lot more because of that. For my research paper, I wanted to do something that applied to me the most. So my big hobby right now is juggling, hence the title of my project. And if you can see here, I'm doing it extremely confidently. I can talk to you guys, I can look you guys in the eye. I could probably listen to podcasts, maybe not with the best memory of what's going on, but I can do a whole lot of things while I'm juggling. But if I were to practice something that's a bit more experimental in nature, I tend to drop. And that's because my brain is not hardwired to do it in that way. I've not practiced that trick nearly enough to be able to do it in front of everybody, but I wanted to demonstrate that when the brain has not learned something so well that it's become native in that element, then it's probably not going to be able to do it well enough that it can consistently pull it out on a consistent basis. My research paper had a lot of different moving parts to it. For example, neuroscience right now is an extremely new field. I was able to reach out to people who were directly doing the research on what I was trying to learn. So we have Dr. Ted Harris, Dr. William Budd, Miss Ellen Phipps, and Miss Karen Garner, who all are experts in their field. And they all gave me different tidbits on information, whether it be microbiology, the macro neuroscience, or even relating to very specific problems. Like my two mentors on the bottom, they actually helped me out in everything relating to Alzheimer's itself. I learned a ton of things through my research paper, and I'd be kidding myself if I said that it was only these 4 individuals that helped me out. They gave me other connections within the field of neuroscience to reach out to. I ended up reaching out to probably 7 or 8 people who directly did the research on neuroscience to help me better understand what I was researching. Saying this, I learned a lot of different things about learning. For example, there's this thing called neuroplasticity, which is the objective difference in the brain. The more you learn something, the more dense that region becomes in the brain and the more hardwired it is. So when you learn a language, the hours you put in helps determine the fluency you have within that language because you've practiced it so much and because that area of the brain that determines language has become extremely dense. There's also something called transference, which says that if you know something previously and you're trying to connect it to something new that you're learning and they're similar, then you're going to learn the new thing quicker. So the impact for me for this was it's easier for me to go from juggling 5 balls to 7 balls because it's the exact same motion rather than going from 5 to 6, which is what you may think you should be doing. As for my internship, I worked with an electroencephalography technician, or an EEG tech for short. My mentor was Miss Elvira Rydell, the only EEG tech left at Johnston Willis Hospital in Midlothian. She helped me out a lot when learning the different parts of the brain, especially the lobes on the outside. For example, the frontal lobe here in the front determines what you understand and how you think and how you understand the world around you. The temporal lobes help your balance and your hearing. The occipital lobes here in the center, they determine the visual cortex and what you understand from seeing different things. Some faults in the occipital lobe help determine like why illusions work. And the parietal lobes here in the back help handle sensory input. There's actually a sense that we use in juggling a lot called proprioception, which is knowing exactly where your limb is in space, even when you can't see it, and exactly how much force you put into something. So when you juggle, that area of the brain, thanks to neuroplasticity, becomes a lot more dense. So you physically cannot exceed, or you physically cannot go straight to 5 balls in juggling. You have to develop that sense. So it really is all about practice. I didn't understand anything about this graph when I first looked at it. It just kind of looks like a bunch of lines. When you move in an EEG machine, the lines spike. So I kept misunderstanding exactly what the graph was doing. However, after my internship, I can see exactly what's going on with this graph. If you look right here at this red box, you'll see a slight spike. This is what we would call like a temporary seizure of the brain. If this were to continue, you'd see what I drew over here on the right, where the lines would go extremely crazy and they would go into a full-blown seizure. Since the seizure is only occurring within one part of the brain, this would be called a focal point seizure. And since it's on the right side of the brain, you'd expect some to lose maybe mobility in the left side of your body because the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. If you're to look up here, this might be what you see if somebody has had a stroke. The lines are very slow, the slopes are very shallow, and this helps determine exactly what's going on within a patient's brain. If you can read these lines, you can determine with extreme accuracy exactly what's going on in the patient's brain. For my community service, I worked with the Alzheimer's Association. I did two parts with the Alzheimer's Association. I first acted as a political advocate. I reached out to our delegate, or our previous delegate, Dave Bratt, our new delegate, Abigail Spanberger, and both of our senators, Mr. Warner and Mr. Kane. Both of these, or none of these individuals were able to reach back out to me because it was a really busy year for elections. And so I'm sad to say that I don't have any of the letters that they wrote back to me. However, if you flip the page within your binders, you'll see the exact letter that I wrote to Ms. Spanberger. The other thing I did with the Alzheimer's Association was I set up a community forum with them. This means that we drew members from the community, both people interested in Alzheimer's, people that have Alzheimer's, people that are predisposed, that help each other with Alzheimer's, and people that are just interested in getting the word out about Alzheimer's and dementia. All of these individuals came to help understand how we can better set up an infrastructure to help caretakers and people suffering from the disease. I learned a lot of different things from this community forum, and I was actually able to implement and talk about a lot of the things that I researched in my paper, which was really cool. Everything that we talked about within this community forum was uploaded to the board of directors of the Alzheimer's Association so that they can better understand how to reach out to localities and help different individuals who might be suffering from the disease, whether it be directly or indirectly. I'm glad to say that this community forum is going to be continuing on next year and the years to come so that individuals can reach out to the Alzheimer's Association and say the different problems that they see within the system and how they think we can fix that in the future. The personal impact for me is that I learned who my personality is. I learned at the beginning of the year when we took a personality test that I'm extroverted, intuitive, I'm very understanding, and I'm intelligent, or I'm intuitive, which means that I really like to be the center of attention, and I really like to connect with people on a personal level. Saying this, I know I probably wouldn't do the best in a research field, but I know that I could do very well in the advocacy part of my community service. So going forward, I really hope that my job helps emphasize the idea of connecting with people on an individual level instead of maybe just a macro scale. For my future plans, I'll be attending William & Mary, and I'll be majoring in hopefully philosophy and political science, but maybe philosophy and theology. This is because I really, really like to learn, and I think that understanding things on a deeper level is something that's really, really important to me. But in the future, I'm hoping to join the circus with my juggling, something that I don't exactly agree with, but I think it would be a really cool future for me. I'd like to thank my teachers, my mentors, and my friends. You guys have helped me out so much throughout this year, and I probably wouldn't be here today for you guys. Thank you guys for everything. Any questions? So I saw somebody with psychogenic seizures, which means that she wasn't actually having a seizure, but she was able to exhibit seizure-like symptoms. And I saw two different people with strokes. So they were really, really interesting to see on the graph itself, especially the psychogenic, because seeing her in person, her entire body would like tense up and go really stiff. But then when you looked at the graph, nothing was going on with her brain other than the fact that she was moving her muscles. So that was really, really cool to see. Zach? The most interesting fact I learned with my research didn't have anything to do with Alzheimer's, but it's the fact that you can look at somebody's brain through an MRI scan and determine with 90+% accuracy the exact way they vote in elections. And that's because conservatives typically have a really dense area of the brain that determines risk behavior. and liberals tend to have a really dense area of the brain that determines emotions. So maybe you don't really choose your political side, but you're just kind of born with the side that you lean towards, which I thought was a really, really cool thing. Ms. Meadows? The way Alzheimer's works is that nerve terminals no longer function, and so they either misfire or they don't fire at all. And so really dense area of the brains tend to be affected last. So things that you've known for a really, really long time, so somebody's name or like your children's names or your husband's name or whatever, you're gonna know those things kind of by heart, and they'll be the last things you forget. So if you constantly work at developing how dense the brain is, you can probably prolong how long you'd live with the disease, or maybe not get the disease in the first place, which I think was really impactful.
If you had gotten a response from government officials, what was your response?
I was hoping for, yeah, I was hoping for some verbal confirmation that they would support the BOLD and PBudd acts, which help develop infrastructure like the community forum to help reach out to caretakers and individuals suffering from the disease, because I don't think a lot of people notice how hard it is just to take care of somebody with Alzheimer's until you actually have to do it, because it's a full-time job from what I've heard. Any other questions? Thank you, guys.